So there's one more Lombok annotation I want to show you specifically because these are annotations from Lombok that I use all the time. So let's come over here to our beer service. And I'm going to mark this as a service. Forgot to do that earlier. So now this is going to become a spring managed component, which will get auto wired. And then what I can do here is add in SLF for J. So this is a logging property. Just adding that, now I can come in and say log.debug. So now I have a logger automatically added. So notice I just added the annotation and all of a sudden I have a property for log. So that log, that's an SLF for J logger for this class. It's going to get configured by Project Lombok. And that will get built into the class for us. And then we can do the same thing with controller. If I come up here and let's come in here and say, you can say it like so. Say beer service, get beer by ID, pass that an ID value. And also now I can say log.logger or log.debug. So now I can say get beer by ID and controller, just some logging message. So when you're going through building a larger application, it's quite common to add in logging. You might want to have additional debug logging. You might have exception logging. So we'll be looking more at logging later in the course, but very common to have logging. Definitely don't want to be doing system outs, not in a production grade application. So now we have everything we need. Let's come in here. I'm going to write a quick test for this. So we're going to create a test. We're going to be using JUnit 5. Get beer by ID. I think that's everything that we need. Now I can say that this is a Spring Boot test. And I should have everything that we need to bring up the context and wire in the controller. So let's see here. Say beer controller. And here you can see on the test, pretty common that you're going to use public properties on test. I'm concerned about that. I want to have constructors and whatnot for tests, but that's a pretty common practice. Go ahead and do auto-wired like that. So now I'm going to do system out, beer controller, get beer by ID. I'm just going to pass it a random UID. Remember the way we coded this, we're returning back the UID that is coming in. So let's go ahead and run this and see if we got everything set up to run within the Spring context, if these components are being wired up properly. See, that did run. Let me expand this out. So here you can see transactions. So we don't have a database, so something inside the Spring Framework's looking for transactions. That's okay. So we got a system out there. Let me pause this and take a closer look at it. Okay, the root problem was our default log level. So I didn't plan on covering this just yet, but we will cover logging in more detail later in the course. You do have the log level in application.property, so you do log level and then the package name. So what I'm saying here is everything in package guru.spring framework, I'm going to set to a debug level. So now when I run my test, I think we had a default level of info, so that was not getting picked up for the debug. So now we can see the output of my test, get beer by ID and controller, get beer by ID and service was called. So we can actually change this to be a little more consistent. Just do it by ID. And then you can actually make more informational methods. So you can say ID, something like this. And now when we run this again, we'll get a little more information in our logging. If we just look at that section, you can see here now I'm passing the actual UID. And the system out here, this is from our test. So the system out, the beer ID. So now we're getting the toString. So remember we talked about having the beer. The toString method generated by Project Lombok. This is the actual toString value from the toString method that was generated by Project Lombok. So you can see the ID, the version, beer name equals Galaxy Cat. So this gives you some very nice information for the log output. So let's minimize this. So what we did to enable the logging, so we added in the SLF4J annotation. That gives us a log property that we can use to put out log messages. And to enable the logging, we did have to change the log level explicitly in application.properties for logging level.package name. In my case, is guru.spring framework.